I've witnessed a lot of people mindlessly lift weights without comprehending what their reps and weight load should be based on their training objectives. They then wonder why they're not seeing results. Worse off, they injure themselves for overtraining or not understanding the correct progression protocols to be safe. Don't let this be you. Today we're going to cover a few key strength training protocols that will help you safely achieve your strength training goals. It's time for your total fitness journey. Hey there, Coach Rick for X3TF, where our focus is educating you on the trifecta of exercise, nutrition, and mind-body to achieve total fitness. We always want to minimize the risk of injury since injuries set our training back. One of the cornerstones of any successful strength training program is understanding your ultimate goal and working towards it without compromising your safety through proper progression techniques. Our very first protocol that we're going to discuss is the double progressive overload for a safer progression to increase the volume and intensity of any exercise by first adjusting the rep count before increasing the weight. Let me give you an example. Week 1, you can lift a certain weight for a max of 10 reps only. By week 3, you're already hitting your targeted rep count of 12 with the same weight by the time you reach failure. Now, to continue seeing results, you'd simply increase the weight once more by 5%. Assuming your rep count would now decrease, you would not add another 5% to the load until you once again hit that targeted rep count at failure. You would continue repeating this technique as you safely progress toward your goals. Now, there are many types of strength training protocols. In my opinion, the next 4 we're going to discuss are foundational for any athlete at any age. These protocols are for general conditioning, muscular endurance, muscular hypertrophy, and muscular strength. They have different training volumes and goals. For general conditioning, you would train using 8 to 15 repetitions or reps for 1 to 2 sets across a comfortable intensity or load. Rest time should be 30 to 90 seconds between each set. This is a great protocol for folks starting out or restarting any exercise program after being idle more than 6 months. If you're new to working with weights or haven't worked with weights in more than 6 months, I recommend for the first few weeks to significantly reduce the amount of weight and duration of the exercise to help lessen what is called delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS for short. Now, to improve muscular endurance, your training protocol is 2 to 3 sets at 12 reps or less with no more than 30 seconds of rest. You'd want to use 60 to 70% of your maximum 1 repetition, 1 RM. Here's how the 1 rep max works. If you can bench 100 pounds one time, then you use 60 to 70 pounds to hit the muscular endurance protocol of 60 to 70% of 1 rep max. Here's a simple formula to get a ballpark. Now, I find this a bit subjective, but a good starting point for those not sure what their 1 rep max is. First, determine your 10 rep max count on a certain weight for any given exercise. This is a lot safer than guessing at your 1 rep max. Let's use a barbell bench press. Say your 10 rep max is 150 pounds. You'd then divide that number by 75%. In this case, 200 pounds would be your 1 rep max. Again, this gets you close, so just as you need to be safe. And it's always better to start off lighter than heavier to avoid injuries. Our next 2 protocols are more advanced and should only be considered after you've been training for a while with general and endurance protocols. First, muscular hypertrophy. This is a program that focuses on developing bigger muscles, though strength is also a byproduct. This training regimen would see 6 to 12 reps using 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max across 3 to 6 sets. The key here is intensity has increased with the heavier weight, and now there are shorter rest periods of only 30 to 90 seconds. This is a bit intense for folks not used to heavy loads and short rest periods. For the muscular strength protocol, you'll want to utilize 80 to 90% of your 1 rep max for no more than 6 reps across 2 to 6 sets. Because of the load or weight is heavier, you'll rest between 2 to 5 minutes to allow your body to recover and ready itself for another set. This protocol is intense and one of my favorites. It's a great protocol to follow if you're not looking to add bulk but just lean muscular strength. It's important that you understand the difference between hypertrophy and strength protocols. So let me take a moment to break down the science. Any initial gains from starting a new training program likely come from what scientists call motor learning. This means that as you repeat an exercise, there will be a more efficient utilization of the motor units involved. This is why it is recommended to start with the general and endurance protocols to prepare your body. Muscle remodeling takes place after all training sessions with enough intensity. But as we progress with our training, two types of hypertrophy actions can occur, largely directed by our focus. First, myofibrillar hypertrophy sees an increase in the number of contractile proteins within the muscle fiber. Translation: the quantity of muscle fibers increase. The strength training protocol helps trigger this action. The second action is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which sees an increase in the cross-sectional area or size of a muscle. In other words, your existing muscle fibers increase in size. You know when you work out and you get that pump feeling? This is called transient hypertrophy, and it is related to sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. You might have guessed it, the hypertrophy protocol helps trigger these actions. Okay, that's a lot to remember. Let's simplify it. The hypertrophy protocol focuses on muscle fiber enlargement, while the strength protocol focuses on adding new muscle fibers. These actions are not mutually exclusive from each other, meaning you'll see some hypertrophy benefits from using a strength protocol and vice versa. The last bit of information we're going to cover in this episode is the phases of muscle action, the concentric, eccentric, and isometric movements. I'm going to keep this relatively simple for purposes of time. Let's use the bicep curl as an example. As you raise the weight, you're performing the concentric portion, or shortening the muscle. As you lower the weight, you're extending the muscle and performing the eccentric portion. Holding the weight in place is simply an isometric phase, otherwise known as being stationary. All three contribute to muscular growth. However, studies have shown that the greater amount of muscle tension occurs during the eccentric portion because the returning the weight to its starting point is like putting the brakes and requires more effort. Thus, the eccentric portion of any exercise has the greatest impact on muscle development. What does this mean to your workout? Simply put, control the weight throughout the exercise, regardless of your training protocol. In the example of the bicep curl, I often see people curling the weight and letting gravity take over to return it to starting point. So don't cheat yourself out of any gains. Control that weight from start to finish. Remember, a one-size-fits-all approach on anything is a recipe for failure. Listen to your body. Warm up and cool down properly to give your body time to prepare and recover. Incorporate rest days. It's okay to challenge yourself, and you should, but also be mindful when working with weights. Ego lifting is a recipe for disaster. Don't lift to impress people. Follow your protocol and work towards your long-term goals. Remember, don't wish for it, work for it. Before you go, please hit that little subscribe button and notification bell to keep up to date on X3TF's programming that looks to help you achieve total fitness.